Welcome to Life in Alberta and our next podcast about the NHL, the Canadian hockey teams, and everything that's kind of take place since the last time the crew got together back in October when we looked at different scenarios on how we thought the season would shape up. And we're going to hear and talk about that tonight and where we went right and where we've gone wrong so far. So again, I want to bring back our panelists. First of all, let's welcome back Eric, a huge Leafs fan and someone that watches lots of sports. Baseball World Series is now over, into the hockey season. And Eric, how are you doing this evening?
Doing very well, thanks. Yeah, ready to rumble, babies. Let's go.
Well, the Leafs are currently in a playoff spot, so you got to be happy there.
Oh, yeah, second in their division. And when I look around at some of the other teams, perhaps some of the panelists, I'm sure they would like to be second in their division too. So, yeah.
Well, let's bring Ryan back in. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. When you said that we were going to review what we are guessing, I had to scrabble for my notebook because holy crap, am I wrong?
Yeah, I think you're not alone there. I think a lot of experts, we're not even experts, but a lot of the panelists in mainstream media, I think they were wrong with their predictions as well. And of course, Frank is back as well after doing a little bit of traveling over the last few days. How are you tonight, Frank?
I'm very good. And to Eric, no, this panelist does not want his team to be second in his division. Second to last, maybe. But...
Well, the good news, Frank, is when we do a draft report towards the end of the season, Montreal, even if they finish with the 5th pick or the 6th pick, they're still probably going to get a pretty good player. It's a deep draft, as we talked about in our fantasy series. And if you haven't seen our fantasy series, Frank and I put together a 4 or 5 episode series. First 4 are out. The 5th one is on its way, where we talk fantasy hockey on Yahoo, give you some tips and advice. Well, at least Frank does, gives you tips and advice on how you can improve your team, especially if you're taking over from a manager into the season. So check that out on the channel. Again, episode 5 is coming out soon. All right. Well, when we last left off back in October, we were making our season predictions. And, it's the beginning of the year and you kind of look at, well, how did the teams finish off last year? What were the moves made in the summer? And you feel pretty confident in your predictions. Well, let's review.
Maybe you, but not the rest of us. It's eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Well, I did, but not saying I'm right. And let's go back and revisit that. And let's start with Eric and his predictions from back in October. And so when we look at it, Eric's picks are at the top of the screen, and then the current up-to-date standings as of tonight, November 17th, are at the bottom of the screen. So Eric, what are you feeling about your predictions? What do you feel the most confident in going forward the rest of the season, and where are you going to admit your biggest mistakes?
Well, I think probably my biggest mistake is Boston, just because of the points. Boston has been very good. And unlike Vegas, they've played some weak teams as far as I'm concerned, and perhaps that's the Oiler guy in me, but I don't think Vegas has been challenged the way the Oilers have. And they've gotten some great goaltending, which I didn't expect them to get either. So probably Boston has been my surprise. And how could I not say New Jersey? New Jersey, wow, they've been something else. So yeah, when I look at kind of what I'm seeing and the Jets as well. Probably, but I'm going to go with Boston because I'm going to stay original 6 because that's the kind of guy I am, and that's the team that surprised me, I think, to be honest with you, because I thought Boston would really be suffering this year. And yeah, there's a part of me, as a Leaf fan that hoped that. So that meant that we would never have to, maybe meet them in the round. And unfortunately, Boston looks very good, and I think they're legit. I think they're going to be out there for a bit.
Okay. Yeah, and especially, when they started the season without Marchand, without McAvoy on defense, and, questionable goaltending, or at least unproven goaltending, they really come out of the gates really strong. All right, Ryan, how about yourself? Let's bring up Ryan's preseason picks.
You don't
and then
have to
again,
show it.
the current standing. So there we go. Ryan, what do you see in terms of the first quarter of the season here? Where were you wrong? Where are you right? What surprised you the most in terms of team play?
Well, what's surprising me the most right now is the Devils on a 10-game winning streak. I never in a million years could I have guessed that. But even Winnipeg, to an extent, I had them just scraping into the playoffs. But right now they're sitting at the top of the division with the best win record, best point percentage as it stands right now, because they're 2 games behind on Dallas, but tied in wins. So I don't know. It's just up is down and down is up. Vegas is at the top. I kind of had them fighting for a playoff spot at the end of the year. Seattle's sitting nice and pretty in a playoff spot. Those Alberta teams, they got to pick up their pants here. I kind of figured Calgary would start a little slow while their team meshed. But I didn't think that they'd go on a 7-game losing streak. And it just, I don't know, Edmonton streaks. They're just, they win a bunch, they lose a bunch. They win a bunch, they lose a bunch. It almost seems like they have to be punched in the face to realize they're in a fight before they start playing the game.
Okay. All right. And we got Frank. Frank, again, a big Montreal Canadian fan, and looking at his season predictions in October and how they kind of compare to today. Frank, how have you seen this first quarter of the season play out? What are your surprise teams and maybe even your disappointing teams?
It has to be New Jersey. I had them right in front of Philly. They're in first. So that has to be bar none the surprise. If you look at the bottom 4 in the Atlantic, I have the bottom 4, just not in the right order. Seattle is the second biggest surprise. Boston, I had 4th. They're first. So that's it's a surprise of how they're dominating. So that's the biggest thing about Boston is no Marchand for the first few games. No the defenseman McAvoy, and then Swayman was basically pathetic, and then he got injured, so it's all on Olmark. And then Krejci coming back from Czechoslovakia, Bergeron signing a 1-year deal. It's like, it's surprising how strong they are. And you can't pinpoint any specific player. It's Boston hockey. They play as a group. They play as a 5-unit, and you saw that team spirit, the team unity when they signed Miller. Players were having none of that crap, and management backed down. And it's 5 as 1, and that's what Boston represents as a unit. They'll outwork more talented teams.
And yeah, in terms of my picks, I think all of us were caught off guard with New Jersey when we looked at the standings there. New Jersey, what they have, like 3 or 4 losses, 3 losses on the season so far. Boston, 2 losses on the season. And even over in the West, we expect good things out of Vegas, but with their little bit of letdown last season, I didn't think we'd expect them to come out of the gates as good as they have, 13 and 4.
Especially with Liner being out for the year before the season started. But Hill was an excellent emergency acquisition from San Jose. They had 3 goalies. Hill's done the job, very good numbers, and Logan Thompson, being a rookie, he stepped up. So and they even waived Brossois, which was their backup from last year. So it's all about the goalies because you knew they had the goods up front. But Liner being out for the year, that was the big question mark. And Logan Thompson has answered the bell. So what can you say?
Yeah. And again, the Pacific is a little bit surprising. Most of us had Edmonton, Calgary, in the top 2 or 3 positions. LA being in second right now. Seattle, of course, being in a playoff spot. And it is a topsy-turvy world, as Ryan said. That, but again, we're still early in the season. If this was February, March, it would be a huge surprise, but we still got a lot of hockey left to play.
Hey, your bottom 4 in the Atlantic is like mine. You have all the right teams, but just the wrong order.
Yeah, and notice in the Metropolitan, Frank, that I'm fairly accurate with Philadelphia. Notice that.
Yeah,
I might have to
by the way.
I might have to replay that clip from the last episode about Philly finishing last. I think someone wanted to make a bet on that, I thought.
Yeah, they lost again tonight, right? That's 5 losses in a row, right? And we're in November, right?
Well, moving on. Well, and
it's crazy,
like you said,
it's crazy to think about that at Thanksgiving, 90% of the races are over. But it's like the January effect in the stock market. Sometimes there's statistical anomalies like that, And the one that always flabbergasts me is usually a player will hit his career year at 24 or less, 24 years old. And you say, well, no, Crosby was great for a long time. But if you look, Crosby was 24 or less. Ovechkin, 24 or less. It's like
McDavid is an anomaly.
But you look, and most players, it's true. And it's like, but what do you mean 24, 23? They're too young. But it happens. So this is a rule that usually applies. It's hard to grasp because there's so much hockey left. There's 3/4 of the season left, but trends are trends.
Yeah. And I think if we moved to New Jersey and St. Louis and reversed those 2 teams, we would be, fairly close to our predictions of at least who made the playoffs and who didn't make the playoffs. Of course, Seattle as well. But, it's not like there's 10 or 12 teams that are completely out of order from what we expected. It's just a couple outliers that seem to either be playing really well or not up to the expectations. All right, let's go to kind of surprises in terms of players and injuries. Is there anyone, and we'll go back to Eric with this one, anyone that, which team do you believe is suffering the most? We talked about Kane in a special episode, but with the other 31 teams in the league, who is being hurt the most by key injuries, do you think?
Well, and of course, my focus, I don't, I'll be the first to admit that I don't follow all the teams as much as I follow the ones that I truly care about. And those are usually the Canadian teams. So I think, the Oilers are suffering, but I have to bring up my Leafs as well. I mean, the Leafs have not. They've suffered. Muzzin's gone, and I think he'll be gone. I think his career is done. Whether they'll, right now there's a lot of talk about spending money on using that LTIR money to bring in somebody, and that's great. But who do you bring in, and who's available, and the Leafs, don't have a lot to trade away, and certainly from draft picks they don't either. So I don't know who would happen there. We just lost TJ Brody as well. He's gone for a bit. And our goaltending situation, perhaps as Frank I think predicted, was predictable, but that's it as well. And so I think the Leafs have had a rocky start. And it's been a bit of a surprise. They did that Western road trip, and that was horrible. I was glad that we didn't have anything to talk about then, because poor old Brian would be smiling from ear to ear talking Leafs at that point, because it was horrid. But when you look at the teams, and they lost to Anaheim, they lost to Los Angeles, they lost.
Well, Keith almost lost his job.
Yeah, and that was the talk, and so on. And it's settled a little bit now, perhaps, but only until it hasn't. I mean, that's hockey, and that's the way that works. So that's been a bit of a shock when it comes to injuries. So I'm going to go with just those two. I'm going to focus on those. There's been other big ones, right? Like certainly Washington. I think it was Brown that they lost. I mean, they signed him. That was a big signing. Oilers wanted him, and now he's gone for the year. So there's lots of kind of nasty Connor Brown. There we go. So and poor old Washington. The Oilers lost to them, and all the talk was, that they were missing, I don't know, $40 million of their salary or something. But for my teams, I think the injuries have hurt, and certainly the Oilers. You can't replace a Kane, and they won't until he comes back, and I hope it's in February. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I mean, Washington, we look at Tom Wilson's out, Connor Brown is out, Nicholas Backstrom is out, TJ Oshie, Dmitry Orlov. They are missing, a lot of their big core players. And we looked at the standings earlier, and right now Washington is on the outside looking in. They're number 5 in their division. So they're going to have an uphill battle. Ovi's not getting any younger, and it's probably going to be tough for them. I don't see them coming back with all those injuries that they have. Ryan, how about you in terms of injuries that you think have really impacted a team or a couple teams this season so far?
Well, you can't. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you can't look past Kane. It's like last night against LA. That's the game that Kane would have thrived in. Got a little dirty, got a little pushing and shoving, and there wasn't a lot of pushing and shoving back. Maybe a little bit from Nurse, but that's your top defenseman. You can't always have him sitting in the box. We're going to be hard pressed to meet teams on a physical basis without Kane around, and he's such a valuable member in the locker room too. Like, there's so much for how much crap was around him when the Oilers signed him, about how he was going to destroy the locker room, and his career should be over, and this and that and the other thing. Like, that guy's come in and has been, quite frankly, an outstanding citizen. He's woken some people up in the locker room. You see him in practice. I got that that Oilers Plus, so you can kind of watch some practices and stuff. And he would be pushing guys around. He'd try to engage Fogle in scrums, pull the RV in scrums and stuff like that. Like, he was a positive influence to a bunch of players on the team. And now he's out, and sure, he's labeled to come back in 3 to 4 months, but like, that's a lot of nerve damage to that hand. And sure, he might be able to play, but how long until he can actually gain full function out of that hand back instead of just grabbing the stick? I think I don't think when Kane comes back, I don't think we'll be getting the same player back. He might be able to still throw a hit and be an intimidating force, but I don't think he'll be putting the puck in the net. So I really think that this injury might impact the Oilers more than originally thought.
Okay, excellent. And Frank, how about you in terms of team injuries and impact that it's going to have on the team?
Has to be Columbus. In the last week, they've lost 4 defensemen. How come you only have 3 there? This is ridiculous. This is not up to
Yeah, they haven't. This site, ESPN, hasn't updated their team injuries yet.
Yeah, so they lost 4 starting defensemen. Liney is out. Merzilikin is out. They're starting goalie now. He was injured earlier in the season. Korpisalo just came back. So all the expectations following the Gaudreau signing, it's all gone now because like Laine is a big piece. So he's out for a while also. So they called up three, and Boquist is also out. Boquist, whatever how you say his name. So yeah, so the impact on them is they should have competed for a playoff spot and they're last. Uh, so that's the biggest impact because that'll be your saving grace for Philadelphia finishing last. They'll be before last because of Columbus's injury. So you can see here Jake Bean just fell. So he's the fourth. Blankenberg, Boquist, Gerbenson, Andrew Peak, but he's playing tonight. Werenski's out for the year. So that's the number one power play quarterback. Like they also suffered from having new players, and their power play was not doing well. But without Werenski, they have no chance. So that's to me the biggest impact is there, because nobody saw Columbus finishing last.
Yeah, and that was the team I was gonna focus on too, was Columbus, and they're dead in the water now. When you lose, three of your top defensemen, you lose Laine for 4 to 6 weeks minimum, likely. I think Voracek might be banged up a little bit as well, so they're going to be in a tough haul. And I know they're playing the Canadiens tonight, Frank. Do you have a score for us? How are they doing?
6-4 Columbus.
Really? 6-4. Okay, so it's a high
Yeah,
scoring game.
right now, the two cures for anybody in a slump is play Philadelphia and play Montreal.
And not to crap on Frank's theory, but my Leafs don't want to play the Canadiens for obvious reasons because they lose all the time. So
but that's different. That's because
Yeah.
ballerinas, full of ballerinas, they can't handle the pressure.
So true. I don't want to play Montreal. Like it's useless. So I want it. Kind of
Yeah, when the Leafs or Boston comes to town, Montreal plays above their head because they have to. It's in the history, so everybody just becomes a little bit a better player. But like this, if you disregard that, like we gave 4 breakaways in the first period to Columbus. Without Laine.
Okay. And I meant to ask, I haven't asked yet, Frank, but I know you live in and around Montreal. Do you get a chance to go out to games that often, or do you just prefer to watch them on TV?
No, I used to get invited, but no, not anymore. The pandemic screwed everything up. Everybody cut costs, so I don't get invited anymore, and I don't pay to go see them. I just stay at home and watch on TV.
Yeah. And Eric, it's probably been a few years since you've been to a game as well.
Yeah, I went once to Rogers Center, and it was pre-pandemic. And you know what? I found it hugely disappointing. I'll be honest with you. From the old Coliseum, had blue and red or gold seats, and I found the new place, at least where the guy with my salary sits, is kind of up in the corner. It's a very corporate kind of world, and I'm not corporate as a former teacher, very uncorporate. And I just thought, no, I'm going to stay home, and God bless the rich folk, but I'll cheer for my place at home. And beer's a lot cheaper, and bathrooms are free, so that's good.
And how about you, Ryan? When was your last time at a game?
Probably about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I never paid for the tickets. I'd rather sit at home, listen to the insight on the TV, and listen to the play-by-play. I find that much more enjoyable. And early, I don't know if it's changed, but at the beginning of the season, I know it was $110 at Rogers Place for burger, fries, and a pop. Two burgers, 2 fries, and 2 pop. So you go over there for a date, and you're pretty much having to work for a week to pay it off.
Yeah, I mean, look at these prices at Rogers Place. Combo number 2 here at the bottom: 2 cheeseburgers, 2 bags of chips, 2 fountain pop, not even the good pop, $55.
There's not even beer in there. Like, what the hell?
Oh my God, that's horrid.
There is in combo 3 here, Frank. Combo 3, you get a hot dog and draft beer for $20.75.
Yeah, that's how much is that? Like 8 Costco hot dogs with 8 pops.
Yeah. Or you can get the signature beef sandwich with a draft beer for $31. So, there are options there, Frank. I don't know what the prices are in Montreal, but yeah, in Edmonton, the prices are extremely high for
the option is
food.
meet up beforehand, stuff yourself at the bar. You for the pre-game beer. You stuff yourself and you bring. It's like the casino, You bring $25 to lose in the slots. It's the same thing. You bring $25. You drink your beer and you nurse it for 3 beers.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's transition to something a little fun. Let's stop talking about injuries and our poor picks in preseason, and let's talk retro jerseys, because a lot of teams now are starting to wear their retro jerseys. And we'll start with Ryan. Is there a favorite? Now, don't be a homer now and say Edmonton.
I was going to say, I'm going to get this sentimental out of the way. That McFarland jersey is like my first jersey. My first jersey was the original of this reverse retro here, but I still like it. I still think it's probably top 5, top 10 of the retro jerseys that came out. But Oilers aside, I really like the Chicago and Detroit jerseys. Just the old-fashioned names across the front. When you think of NHL in the 40s, these are the kind of sweaters that you think of here. So I really like those.
Okay, yeah, that's I think these kind of Chicago, Detroit, or you love them or you hate them, and interesting choices. So number 1, of course, the Edmonton, the old Todd McFarlane gear. And again, I don't know if a lot of people are cognizant of the fact that the little, I don't know what you call these drill bits or whatever, 5 of them represent the 5 cups that Edmonton has won. So there's a reason why there are 5 on there. So you're going Edmonton, you're going Detroit, and you're going Chicago. It's funny, Seattle has a retro jersey.
Yeah, after a year, I know.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to Eric. Eric, what stands out for you if you had one of these jerseys that you might parade around in?
I have one that is number 1 for sure, and that would be the St. Louis Blues. And you scrolled by. I thought you were going to comment, but I love it. I think that's a sharp-looking jersey. Represents their 67, except different colors. I think they were more blue. So, but I really like that one. Honorable mention has to go to Florida's. It's hard for me to do that because I don't think you should play hockey where you should be suntanning. So the Florida one, I like that one. I like the colors on that one. I think that one is nice. And because I'm old, and Glennie, so are you, and so is Frank and Finn. Well, Ryan can be quiet. I like the Golden Seals, the Sharks kind of retro to the Golden Seals.
What team is that?
San Jose. So the Oakland Golden Seals one, yeah. So if you can find it, it looks pretty good. So, and what team is that? Yeah, was that in the WHA? What is the WHA? So yeah, so that one's kind of cool.
Women's Hockey League? Was that the Women's Hockey League?
The Women's Hockey League. So anyway, yeah, that one's, so sorry, Ryan, but Holy cow! Seriously, the Chicago and Detroit, yuck.
I don't know. When I think of old time hockey, the black and white replays you see on TV, I think of those jerseys.
Dude,
Like,
old
those
time
are the-
hockey for you is 1975. Like that's the problem, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
Glenn,
older old time hockey. I mean, original.
Oh.
Glenn,
Oh.
you should have stayed on ESPN because they have it ranked. It was
Oh.
so
Do they
earlier
really?
you said ESPN wasn't good, but I'm looking at. I did a search while we were doing, and so to Eric's point, his top three is Florida, which is ranked number 1 on ESPN.
Ooh.
Sharks ranked number 2 on ESPN, and what was your third?
Blues. Well, Blues
The
were number
Blues
one.
are ranked 7th on ESPN, so he's
Oh,
got
okay.
1, 2, 7. So
Oh.
pretty good choices. And Ryan, not going to mention where your choices are. Hold on,
How about
I'm
the
gonna.
Oilers, though, Frank?
I'm a simple man.
Oh
I like simple things.
no, but you got Detroit at 14th, and which is the other one? I'm going to get a
Oilers
cramp.
and Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago is 22nd. So 14 and 22nd versus 1, 2, 7.
Well,
So-
I'm
what are the
curious,
others
Frank,
at?
who do they have as the worst one? ESPN.
Toronto, I think.
No, you're not far off, but it's not Toronto.
Is that Toronto?
Islanders?
No.
Yeah, that one's ugly. I don't like that
Tampa.
one.
Tampa.
Oh,
Tampa is 32nd. Flyers, which is the white. There's
Yeah.
nothing retro about that. That's 31st. Calgary, which you mentioned, somebody mentioned it in like, that's 30th. And Toronto's 29th. So-
yeah. Toronto didn't do anything. They just
Well, Toronto is just like Calgary and Philadelphia and Tampa. All 4 of them, they have basically the same logo.
Yeah. And
You know?
it's funny, like the Washington one, if you look at the Washington one and also the New York Rangers, I have those original jerseys. so which were from like the early 90s and stuff, right? So I'm like, wow, I guess I'm really retro now, right? Because I have the Rangers jersey like that. Yeah. So,
Does it
So
have
it's funny.
Yarmer Jaeger on the back?
no, at that point I as a teacher couldn't afford putting anybody on the back. Buddy,
Couldn't
so-
afford the nameplate, huh, Eric?
Couldn't afford the nameplate, buddy. So
All
Well,
right, Frank. Well, now that you've had a
go.
chance,
You go for it.
Okay.
I'll be last. So what are your favorites?
you know what? I like the Canucks ones. I like that patch logo that they've had a few times over the season, and now they've kind of made it part of the uniform. Again, the number 22 on the top, I kind of like that old school look. But probably I have to agree with Eric. The Blues is in my top 5. I just love the look of it. The colors go so well together. Again, it's got that old style kind of font that they use. Boston, the Bear, I always loved the original. In fact, I own one of the original jerseys. The retro, it's kind of plain. I still prefer the mustard yellow one. And I have to admit, Frank, I am not a Canadian fan, but I do like the look of the powder blue. I love the powder blue Expos, the powder blue Blue Jays.
oh
You
yeah,
know, teams that wear powder blue, it just appeals to me. And so that reminds me of that kind of look.
Are
In
you
terms
ready
of
for?
my
Are you, hold on. I'll just give you
terms
your
of my
ranking. Your
Oh,
rankings
sorry.
of your top favorite. So Vancouver is 12th.
Okay,
Next, you had
St. Louis.
Bruins. You are 9th.
Okay,
St. Louis, like Eric, 7th.
and Montreal.
Montreal, 3rd on ESPN.
Oh, okay.
Where are the Oilers?
Not that bad. Yeah, 10th, the Oilers.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
I do have to say, though, overall, my least favorite are the white jerseys. I just love the colors, and any jersey that has that kind of old home white, I'm not a fan. I wouldn't purchase those ones. So Buffalo and the LA Kings. LA, if it was their yellow or their purple, it would probably be in my top 3. I just don't like the dominant white color. Same with New Jersey. So, Frank, how about you? What are the jerseys that jump out to you?
I'm a baseball fan, so I'm gonna go Montreal like you. The exposed jersey, so it's kind of a big wink to the sports scene in Montreal because that's where the Expos were most successful when they had the powder blue uniforms. They look ridiculous. It's like pajamas, and you can see it even here. It looks like pajamas, but they made it work. It doesn't matter how well dressed you are. It's the results on the ice, or on this case, and on the diamond for the Expos. Uh, I also like the Sharks. They're white. Uh, Glenn said he doesn't like it, but the rest just compensates. I even like the lettering and everything, so that's pretty cool. I agree that the Kings, if it would the original Rogie Vachon
Yeah.
yellow, would have been amazing. Uh, and the Blues stole the LA Kings yellow. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. So yeah, so those are my the ones that pop out. I never liked the bear for the Bruins, so that's fine. But I hate the Bruins anyways. It's like second most hated team after Leafs, so I don't think I could ever like their uniform. So, and the one I like the least, I think the least original to me is like Pittsburgh. You know, it's like they didn't do much. It's like all the other teams.
Yeah.
It's like what's retro about that? It's like no, be more original. The stars are the same. You know, it's like they could have gone back and done a big wink to Minnesota North Stars with their jersey, but they didn't. They went black, and black and green boring because they had kind of this weird green, the Minnesota North Stars, but that's not on their jersey at all. So it's just unfortunate that people, some teams like the Sharks, San Jose, they went back to the Golden Seals. Montreal went back to the Expos. It's like people could have been really original. New Jersey could have gone back to the Colorado Rockies. Carolina could have gone back with the colors of the Whalers. A bunch of teams could have really done something very good. The Canes is basically, I think it's written the Canes. It's like, come on, man.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
original. You
Looks like
look
a
at
golf
this, you
club.
don't think hockey. Come on, man. I thought that was a golf club. I go, what is this? And it's like, it looks like a golf club because at the top, you have kind of the thing for the grip of your golf club. Like hockey sticks don't have the white. So I thought it was a golf, and they probably made it look like a golf club, just to screw with people. But that's super original. So sunshine, trees, palm trees, and a hockey stick. Come on.
All right, guys. Well, that was fun, kind of going through the reverse, and with marketing, of course. We talked, Frank, about sponsorship. You let me know after the fact that Montreal has, what was it, CIBC?
CIBC on the helmet.
On the helmets. Vancouver, I think, has the TD, the Toronto Dominion Bank. Ryan, do you know if Edmonton has any sponsorship yet?
They have, for crying out loud, put me on the spot. They have one just for away, but nothing for home yet. I forget who it is for away.
Okay.
But
And Eric,
one.
how about Toronto? Do you know about
They
Toronto?
have milk on their jerseys, right? Milk.
Milk. Oh.
Milk. God, milk.
I'm sure Frank has a million comments he can say about that.
I'm biting my tongue myself it's just too easy. It's like, here, let me throw this up for you, Frank. I don't know. Okay. Come on. Really? Seriously.
All right, let's take a rundown of the Canadian teams and currently where they're at, what we expect of them, who's surprising us. Let's start with the Oilers, the hometown team. Ryan, are you happy? I mean, you're not happy where they're at. You thought they'd be in first place by now, but give us a quick rundown on Edmonton. What's disappointed you? What's surprised you?
This is no longer a coaching problem. It's been 3 coaches now, and the team just can never seem to start on time. This is a this is a leadership problem. Got the best 2 players in the league there, but they can't seem to get the room to start on time. It's I mean, light a fire under their asses. Like, come out flying, set the pace. I mean, dictate the game. Don't wait for it to come to you. Yeah, I'm really getting tired of watching the first goal go in all the time. So I mean, that's the Oilers right there. Figure it out.
Yeah. Okay. Your Leafs, Eric. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with them.
Okay. My dog is quite jealous right now, right? I haven't spent a little bit of time with her, so she's
Where's the
really
Leafs
good.
jersey on him? I don't see a Leafs jersey.
Yeah, I know. We have to get one. What's disappointing me with the Leafs is, it's been a slow start from a scoring perspective. They've been hyped mainly by themselves, I think, and they've disappointed. Injuries have hurt. I've already commented on that. I think I'm hoping that they can get some of their scoring back, but their defense and their goaltending is going to be an issue. Murray's playing; he's back, and he played okay the other night that I watched, but he's still there's still some issues there, and certainly defense is really hurting. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to who are they going to replace? Like I said, Jake Muzzin is not coming back. They can play the game as much as they want. He's done. He's not coming back. This kind of injury. So I don't know what's going to happen there. And I need Matthews to start scoring. I mean, my God, it's isn't he supposed to be all that in a bag of chips? Right now, he's a Diet Coke, as far as I'm concerned. So he's get going on some stuff. There you go.
All right, and covering the Jets a little bit and watching the Jets, I think Jets fans have to be extremely pleased with how the Jets are doing so far. Scheifele with 10 goals, Morrissey 14 assists. Their defense playing really well, and Hellebuck, of course, is the MVP of that team, a .935 save percentage. So the Jets are doing a lot better than I expected. I didn't think they would make the playoffs. Right now, they're second in their division. And, we talked about the coaching and whether the coach who is a bonus that came in, whether he would have a positive or negative impact on the team. Right now, they're playing a lot higher than expectations. And Pierre-Luc Dubois, I know there's rumors. Frank, you probably hear him in Montreal about him signing in Montreal next season or the season after, whenever his contract ends. But right now, Jets fans, you got a lot to be proud of. They're doing extremely well. Frank, take us through a couple East Coast teams there, starting, of course, with your Montreal team, and then running down also maybe a little bit about the Flames and out west, what you're seeing there.
So Habs are bad, but damn, they're exciting to watch. They have one line, the Suzuki, Caulfield, and Kirby Dach line. And Kirby Dach doing so well at right wing is screwing up their plans to having 1 and 2 centers with Suzuki and Dach, because he's so dominant as a right wing since he's been put at that line. He's almost at 1.5 points per game. Then the second, third, and fourth line. But they're so exciting. Like tonight, they came back to 5-4. It was back and forth. So you have those 3 scores. You see 21, 16, 15 points. Then you fall to Monahan. And Monahan got most of his points playing with Caulfield and Suzuki. I think like 5 of his 9 points. And then you have Hoffman 7. So it's really a one-line team right now. No power play quarterback. They're playing with 5 forwards on their first power play. Montembeault is playing way above his pay grade, so that's cool. He got lit up tonight, but yeah, they're exciting. So that's the thing. At one point, somebody said, "Hey, the Habs lost 3 in a row," and you wouldn't know it by the city, because usually a losing streak in Montreal means everybody's in a bad mood. But
Hey,
I said, what? They did? They lost 3 in a row? Oh, I didn't even notice. They're that exciting to watch.
yeah, that top line, such a young top line as well. Reminds me of the 10 years ago in Edmonton when you had Hall and Nugent Hopkins and Eberle as that young up and coming top line, and then they didn't really have anything else.
They called that hope.
Yeah.
Hall, Omar, Puliarvi, and who was the other? Not Puliarvi, Payarvi, and
Payarvi,
Eberle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Cogliano, and yeah. All right, and how about the Flames, Frank? As an out east there, what are
Yeah.
you seeing with
So,
Calgary?
in one word, disappointing. The Flames brought in 3 forwards, 2 forwards in their top 6, Kadri and Huberdeau, and they brought in Mackenzie Weegar. So it would take time to mesh on a new team, on a new system. Sutter is not very flexible as a coach. So, and I looked through time on ice. So Uyghur is playing actually a little bit less, minute and 30 seconds less a minute 40 less per game. Huberdeau is playing almost 3 minutes less per game. So that's affecting his production. That's why you saw he has 7 points in 12 games. But even Nazem Kadri is down 2 minutes per game. And that's Sutter. He will roll his 4 lines. He wants his grinders to play some minutes. So that's the thing. But what's killing the Flames is not Huberdeau taking time. He's got 7 points in 12 games, etc. Nobody's at a point per game. Kadri was on pace for 100 points last year, but he's at 14 and 15. What's killing Calgary this year is goaltending. Each of their goaltender has a save percentage. I think it's under 89%. So it's bad. It goes against average over 3 for each. 889 and 881. So they're under 89%. That's terrible. The league average is 907, 908. So they're far from just being average, and that's the biggest thing. But if that goes back to normal, you'll see the wins come back. So there is hope for Calgary because goaltending. When you're a forward and you hit a slump, it might last a long time. But goaltender are, they're the ones that go in and out of slumps very fast. So sometimes it takes a 3-game break. The guy comes back mentally refreshed and then dominates. It's harder for skaters to flip on a switch like that. So.
Yeah. And Eric, you follow the Leafs, and we covered the Leafs a little bit earlier. But in terms of, one of their rivals with Ottawa, anything that you've seen in Ottawa that you kind of want to touch on in terms of how they started the season?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking today. Ottawa is close to 30th in penalties. In other words, they're penalty killing all the time. And I know their coach just recently, said we got to start taking smart penalties and not just penalties that we should be taking, not some of the ones that are happening. So they're getting killed a little bit that way. Certainly the injury to Talbot hurt them. He's come back and I think he's playing now. But so Forsberg had to carry the load, and I mean that's why they brought Talbot in. He was to be their number one, and so that hurt them. Giroux has been fine, but Thomas Chabot is injured again. He's had some injury issues, so it's
and Norris, the number 1 C,
Norris.
is injured. That's big.
Norris as well, right? So and he appears that Norris is out for a while. I think
He might be out for the year. They're trying to not operating to see if he could come back before, but that's a big loss for them.
So they're hurting a little bit. yeah, I feel sorry for Ottawa. They, it was a lot of excitement at the beginning. I think even Ryan picked them to win the division or something. So,
Weekend.
or at least be higher than the Leafs.
There's
but
proof right there. I said no.
so, but anyway, yeah, no, it's disappointing because it's hard to hate Ottawa. You can hate Montreal, but actually I don't. But Ottawa, you kind of feel sorry for because they've been kind of struggling for a very long time. So
Yeah,
so
they're snake bitten this year. They were supposed to be like New Jersey this year,
yes,
and would bring in the Brinkat, bring in Giroux. Like everybody had them probably ahead of New Jersey, but it's snake bitten, and it's not like, oh, the players are not producing. It's injury
Okay.
after injury after injury.
yeah,
Yeah. And Ryan, will cover the last Canadian team here, the Vancouver Canucks. So, of course, Edmonton's played them at least once, I think, so far this year. But again,
we
you
opened
follow
up
Twitter, you follow the media. What are you seeing out of Vancouver?
I had them picked to do a lot better, and a lot of people get paid to talk about hockey. Had them picked to do a lot better. Their defense is a mess, and it's going to be a little bit of a mess for the next couple of years. Myers making $6 million, OEM making around $7 million or whatever it is, and it's just they're not worth it. They need to retool that defense. I don't know how, and luckily I don't get paid, and that's not my job to know how. But they're hurting. I don't know. They might be better off just sinking and trying to get another good pick and wait out OEM and if they won't wait out OEM, I think that's 4 or 5 more years of him. But Myers is at least up soon.
I think 2 years for Myers, 4 years for OEL, and yeah, I don't. When they sign Miller long term to the 8-year deal, I say, why?
Yeah.
And Kuzmenko is the bright spot, right? Kuzmenko coming in and 11 points in 16 games. Of course, Bo Horvat, Pedersen, Miller, but you expect that out of Pedersen and Miller. But after maybe Hughes.
And Demko was more or less projected to be a top 5 goalie this year, and I don't think he's.
Look at his percentage. Ooh.
Yeah, he is fallen off a cliff.
Well, he hasn't fallen off a cliff. He can't do anything with that defense.
Well,
don't forget, Hughes got injured. When you have the puck, you don't have to defend, and Hughes can't defend to save his life. But he's an offensive powerhouse, and when he has the puck, well, the opposition can't score. So he missed 4 games, but that defense is just horrible. So he's been left out to dry. So yes, he's slumping, but it's not on him at all.
Yeah.
Probably the second worst defense in the league, I would think, behind maybe Columbus because of the injuries only.
Because of the injuries, yes.
Yeah. I mean, they picked up Bear, but Bear is, he's a 7-8 DVET man at
not
Carolina.
In Vancouver. I think he slots in at 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You put in the let's list just the defenseman, and I don't understand the OEL trade with Phoenix where they didn't ask Phoenix to keep some salary. They gave.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was a stupid trade. So I don't know. I said how not to build the defense is what Vancouver did to build their defense. So they're a mess. And I said, you're a mess. Horvat has 1 year left. Why sign Miller for 8 years? He's 29, I think. Like Elias Pettersson is still young. Baser is still young. Quinn is still young.
It's like Toronto all over again with Tavares.
Yeah, it made no sense, and it doesn't make sense that they signed Miller for so long. So it seems like Vancouver is Jekyll and Hyde, but both Jekyll and Hyde are managing the team at the same time.
Ryan, you had something you wanted to ask the panel.
Yeah, it's just something that's really bothering me this year with watching hockey, and that's all the sports betting commercials that are everywhere. And they even have, in the middle of periods, they have a guy come on that sounds like he doesn't know a damn thing about sports, and all he does is talk about the bettings and this and that. I feel like it's cheapening the game a bit. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts about it. I mean, like, there's a lot of people out there that have gambling problems, and I mean, I guess it's no different than a beer commercial, but I mean, lighten it up a bit. I think, like, that's just my opinion. I wanted to hear what other people thought.
Well, the difference between a beer commercial and this gambling thing is the gambling thing appears to be part of the show. And like, I know last year's playoffs is where I saw it really start to emerge. And that's where that guy who used to be on TSN, Cabby, I think is his name, some Toronto kid who's now working for sports betting. And it's almost like an infomercial that's being spun like it's part of the broadcast. And so I think it's insidious that way. I don't like it. I'm old school and I like Don Cherry, so they're not going to bring him back either. But so I'd rather hear real talk, than this. The sports betting, I do sports bet a little bit, right? But I don't pay any attention to that stuff because I just don't care. I look at it as a commercial. I'm up, I'm gone, I'm waiting for the period to get started. So don't like it. I agree with you.
Yeah. And Frank, what's your take on it?
Ridiculous. It's annoying because they have enough money to buy every 2 commercial, and even in between periods they have live updates on the odds. Like, I'm trying not to swear, but it's a joke, and it's the NHL selling out for the buck. So I don't tune in to an intermission anymore because I just don't want to hear those commercials. So
it's been fun reconnecting here, guys, since October, seeing where the teams are at. Still lots of hockey to play, and of course we know injuries are going to happen. And hopefully, as you mentioned, we see a few more trades to make things a little bit interesting. So thank you guys again for joining today for this reflection on our picks in the preseason. We'll get together back in January. I think mid-January is probably when the All-Star break is. And maybe if we see something else happen, just like with the Kane injury, we might have to get together for a short episode as well. So Ryan, Frank, Eric, thank you so much for joining the episode, giving your input, and have a wonderful, well, not American Thanksgiving, but those of you that are watching this in the U.S., have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Goodbye, everyone.